Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Leisha on a podcast where I'm Leisha on to a certain topic for 15 minutes or more. Now, today I'm really grateful to present a guest from another podcast, honestly, a pretty big podcast and a podcast even I'm tuned into, Miss Authentically Ash, also known as Ashley Kaloff. Amazing. She first came up on my For You page, and I really loved what message she spread. And in finding her own podcast, I realized, wow, like this is insane. This is exactly, what I want my audience to figure out and see for themselves. So without further ado, I want you guys to meet Ashley. No, of course. So I do have a couple questions. I had asked my Instagram a couple questions on what they would like to ask because correct me if I'm wrong, you do have a psychology major, right?
Yes, I'm a psychology major with a sociology minor.
Wow. Okay. So definitely like you just wanted to get every science of the people that you can.
Yeah, I think sociology, it's a little bit newer for me, but it's broader in the social scope, and I think it's helpful to anyone who if you want to understand one person, I think you also have to understand a lot of people as well. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
Okay, that's awesome. And you go to the University of Oregon, right?
That is correct. Yes, I'm going to be a senior in the fall.
Wow. So how is that? Like, what's the social life up in Oregon?
It's good, honestly. I mean, I'm from Southern California, so I definitely grew up very beachy and just very, I don't know what the word is. I just grew up in a very deep rooted community of Southern California, so getting out of that was really important to me. But I'm definitely planning on moving back just cuz I have a lot of community here that I still really prioritize. So, but it's been nice to get out and see the mountains and the coast, and there's a lot that Oregon has to offer, so it's been fun.
Yeah, I'm really glad you were able to kind of compare and contrast because I did have another guest that was from the the Orange County area. That's California,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and same thing. They're from Oregon. They're from Portland, Oregon, but then moved to Orange County. And being able to hear the Oregon to California move is kind of funny compared to the California to Oregon move.
That's so
Um,
funny.
yeah, I mean, I'm personally from the Carolinas, so I'm sure the accent's probably coming through pretty strong.
Yeah, that's funny. I've never been there before, but I definitely would love to visit sometime.
Well, I do have a couple very curious questions here if you don't mind answering, kind of just ice break
Yes,
it up a
please, I'm
little bit.
ready.
So, I've got somebody asking, what career of psychology do you plan to work in with your major?
That is a great question. Thank you for asking. I personally would like to become a marriage and family therapist. I've always been interested in different dialects of therapy. So there are a lot of different types of therapy, which I think people don't really know. So something I'm really interested in is called cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mhm.
That's kind of deep rooted in clinical psychology, which is essentially thoughts, feelings, and behavior. But I'm also really interested in DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. So there's a lot of different subsets that I think I'm going to explore through grad school and probably find my niche in that
Yeah.
area.
Oh, that's really neat. So, what jobs can you get with a psychology major period?
Yeah, I think it's a very wide subset. I have a lot of friends who are currently in the psychology field and they want to go into marketing. So I think there's a lot that you can
Oh.
do with that major, but I will say I think you kind of need to take more time to explore that because it's not necessarily this end all be all. Like if I'm a business major, I'm going to go, get a job in an office or something like that. It's just not a direct correlation. But you can also go into, a lot of extra schooling is usually required. So, most people I know also go to grad school or they get their PhD and they go into research. But that's a little bit trickier right now just because of the general funds that a lot of people were getting for this current research is kind of being shifted with the way that Trump and his administration are handling things.
Right.
So it's just something to keep in mind before kind of deciding what you want to do.
And that's awesome. I mean, I'm actually still in high school, so being able to understand that, majors aren't exactly a straight path or a linear path, more so to say. It's more, kind of, you can go a little bit of anywhere. And really being able to hear that first account was almost kind of reassuring because, they try to drill it to you in high school. Oh, you got to know what you want to be. You got to know where you're going to go. Have the end goal in mind and then do everything in the middle. But being able to know that, oh, well, the middle, can lead to different ends is also
Mhm.
pretty nice to hear. Um, so with that being said, this is a genuine curious question here.
Sure.
Which mental condition do you think is the closest to being a superpower?
Wow. That is a great question. Obviously, I don't want to like necessarily say that any mental health issues or anything that anyone struggles with is a superpower, but if I'm changing it in that narrative, I would probably say the first thing that comes to mind is OCD, which is obsessive
Hmm.
compulsive disorder. Mostly because I have it, and I feel like one thing that it's helped me with in a positive way is really being able to dissect and understand everything that I'm really interested in pursuing. Mostly because it's kind of given me this all or nothing mindset, which isn't positive in every sense of the word, but it's definitely allowed me to like be 100% confident in what I want to pursue and really go to the farthest length to figure out if that was the right decision for me. Just a lot of
Oh.
overanalyzing, research, and all of that.
So would you say that your OCD ended up helping you, like learning about psychology and the way that the mind works? Did that kind of reassure your OCD, or if anything, provoke it more?
I would say that it's going to be a case by case basis, but for me personally, it was something that made me feel so much more confident in myself and kind of dissecting the brain and understanding why we make certain decisions the way that we do as humans has given me a lot of clarity.
Wow. So it's honestly been able to help you, if anything, understand yourself and others more.
100%.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So did you take personal question? Did you take AP psychology when you were in high school?
You know what's so funny is I get that question all the time and I actually didn't take it. Um
Really?
I wasn't, like, a fantastic student on paper in high school. I had a lot of, I was working through a lot of, like, ADHD and OCD, like I had mentioned previously, but I could not, like, apply myself in an academic way, and I was, like, really scared of taking AP classes, so it just never ended up happening, but all of my other friends took it, and I think it's really hilarious now because I'm, like, the only psych major.
That came out of all the AP masterminds.
Exactly.
That is pretty funny. So, I did take AP psychology, and I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna know probably most of the terms you throw out, but I did. We did cover, most of the, the classic neurotransmitters, right? Dopamine,
Yes.
serotonin. Uh,
Yes.
the one that's in salt or the foods, MSG.
Yeah.
Yes. But so with the neurotransmitters, what and you being in depth and learning a lot more, what actually is the chemical process of your brain that happens when you fall in love?
Oh, this is a great question. You know what? I'm gonna pull up some notes.
Oh, this is
Hmm.
awesome. Like your personal notes from class.
Yeah. Just give me
Wow.
1 second. Okay, so it's kind of a, I would say a cocktail of chemicals, and there are different stages of falling in love. So the earliest stages do involve the dopamine that you were just referring to, but there's also other chemicals: oxytocin, norepinephrine, vasopressin. So all of those in the early stages kind of surge an overall contrasting feeling of love. But that love can also be considered like attraction or lust, because
Oh,
when you like someone for a week versus like when you're in a committed relationship with someone for a year, those are two different types of love.
really?
So one is a little bit more lustful, mostly because like certain transmitters are associated with pleasure and reward. Those are also associated with drugs or caffeine or alcohol.
Mhm.
So when people say love is a drug, it really is, in the sense of like if it's a very overarching type of feeling, then it really can consume you in the way that other drugs or substances would.
So it's kind of almost like a instant addiction type of thing.
Yes, and I would also argue that that's not necessarily the healthiest way of going about love. I've always told my friends and my family, like, a slower build is going to be the healthiest for the brain, mostly because if you look back on friendships that you have or really close relationships you have, those were not built in a week. Those were built very slowly over time. And our brains really do process that consistency a lot more healthily than they would if it was like a very extreme type of narrative.
Okay, so the brain would would prefer like kind of a distributed getting to know bond versus like boom boom bam in a week and the next thing you know there's y'all are in bed together.
Yeah, totally. I think that there's like that saying too where it's like, you lead with your mind or your heart. I would agree that
Mhm.
that's actually that can be true. Everything I'm saying right now is going to be a case by case basis of the person and the
Right.
individual, because a lot of love as well is also very hormone based. And so it really just depends on how synced you feel with your mind and your body, like if those are in alignment. And I think that's why a lot of people say, get to know yourself before you explore someone else, just because
Mhm.
you want to know what you're capable of and what you're willing to take on as an individual, even down to those genetics is really important to take into consideration.
Because genes do play in the way in like things like love languages, correct?
Well, so those are developed not necessarily genes. Like I wouldn't say that that's like, okay, you're born with gift giving, but
Right.
a lot of attachment styles are built through your upbringing. So the way that your parents express love to you and to each other, like if your parents are really big on gifts, then that might be something that you're able to translate into your future because it's going to feel a lot easier when you're around it, you know?
Right. So is it best to, in your early 20s, let's say, before, while you're getting to know yourself, before you enter the dating field to even marry or settle or get to know other people, whatever, is it best to really try to unpack your childhood to ensure that, okay, something bad happened when I was a kid, but, I'm going to work on it and make sure that I don't carry it on as an adult?
100%. And I understand that that's not necessarily in everyone's control. Maybe you've met your life partner, you know, before a time where you really were developed and ready to unpack and assess. But if you, as an individual, are willing to acknowledge those disparities and take those into account in your relationship and work on them, 100% by all means.
Now, I did tune in into one of your previous collaborations with Sunny Side Up Pod,
Oh my
and
gosh, that was so many years ago. That is hilarious.
and
Wow.
I remember hearing you, talk about how you were taught to believe in yourself, correct?
Yes.
And so explain and talking all of this, most of it can be unlearned, right?
Yes. Can I ask what specifically you're referring to? Because I just don't want to give you the wrong answer.
But just in this case, it would be about believing in yourself, correct? So if
Okay.
you're um if as a kid you were raised around a certain environment putting you down,
Right,
and
right, right, right.
now growing up you're really struggling to feel good. Let's say you got a promotion, right? And you're like, oh, I don't feel good. In
Totally.
that moment where you're like, okay, bashing yourself, what does it take to be able to reteach yourself a completely new way to believe in yourself or love yourself?
This is a great question. I'm going to ask you a question actually. Have you ever heard of the concept called neuroplasticity?
Now I know plasticity is the brain's ability to like kind of remap itself, or not really
Yep.
remap itself, but like grow.
No, no,
So I would
you're on the
assume
right track.
so I would assume
100%.
neuroplasticity is the maybe expanding of your nervous system or your neurons specifically, or maybe the neuron firing. That's what I'm gonna
Yes.
say.
Yes. No, you're actually you're right there. So, neuroplasticity is essentially the brain's ability to adapt and reorganize itself through forming new neural connections. So, we are actually able to break certain neural connections in our brain and build new ones, which is why the brain is really such a fascinating tool. But what we are able to do is kind of change the functionality of our brain. So this can be categorized into two structures. We have structural plasticity, which is changes in the physical structure of the brain, and then functional plasticity, which is how the brain performs tasks. And actually, this is really interesting. I wrote a research paper about neuroplasticity because a lot of people who suffer from strokes or kind of any brain injuries, this is a very crucial part of building their recovery after their injury, and it's a fundamental process for learning memory and overall brain health throughout life. But
Right.
for you specifically, and for what we're talking about, neuroplasticity is essentially thought training. So every time you redirect a self-doubting thought, you're literally rewiring your brain. So if you've ever heard people being like, "Oh, just gaslight yourself into being happy." Like that's not what exactly we're trying to do here, but it is kind of the idea of what neuroplasticity is capable of.
Okay, and that honestly makes a lot more sense. And I did want to ask another one of your opinions on the thought of these popular buzzwords, right? You just had mentioned gaslight,
Right.
and do you like? I don't want to say are those words in like your textbook, but do you guys follow like the idea, and people just slap a new buzzword on it?
I would say that self-diagnosis, and these kind of words are definitely, like, overused and misapplied, a lot in current media, just because I don't think they're always the most helpful, but I do think that these words often track the most audience and can probably become dramatic and relatable and kind of this, like, aesthetic package for a video that gets a lot of, views, but
Mm.
I think also there's a lot of gaps in these kind of popular words right now. Like, one word comes out and someone's saying it and it just becomes a part of their daily lingo. Like, we're missing a lot of steps that we had gotten to take if you were seeing a current therapist to really understand what that means and to fully apply it and work on fixing it. Because saying the word isn't going to make you a different person or make you feel any better than you did before.
Right. Okay. And that completely makes sense. I think a lot of people kind of with I guess this would be more of a sociology question, but I'm assuming with the more connections and access people have to the internet, societies obviously grow and gain faster, that it's easier for those type of words to get spread around and everybody use them so much to a point that it doesn't even have the same meaning as it previously did.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that social media has created a culture where people adopt mental health labels without a full clinical understanding. And struggles, like real struggles, are kind of turning into an aesthetic or a quirk, when in reality, a real diagnosis for treatment is definitely required.
Okay. So would it be kind of using TikTok buzzwords if I were to ask, how do different types of PTSD tie into trauma responses? And if by any chance, could lucid dreaming affect it?
Wait, you know what? Can you ask me that one more time? Sorry.
So different types of PTSD, right? Is
Yeah.
there any way? Because I don't know if this is another buzzword, but I've heard like C PTSD, and then I've heard like I guess maybe
Mm,
that's child or something like that. Like I
mm-hmm.
definitely have heard of different PTSDs, so that's why I want to make sure that's not like a new TikTok buzzword that people just want to sound quirky with.
Right. Um,
So
Again, I think all of those are kind of just generalized, and like I think it also depends on who you're following and where you're getting this information from. Like if you're getting it from a clinical therapist or someone in the social work field, like 100% I would support what they're saying, but it's backed by a lot of their own schooling and hands-on experience.
hmm. So would there be a way that PTSD in general as a whole that it could tie into trauma responses?
Yes. Well, PTSD is typically a form of a trauma response, mostly because it can include vivid flashbacks of trauma, intrusive thoughts, nightmares, physical sensations. But the thing is, it's a very extreme feeling. PTSD is not
Mhm.
just like, oh, wow, this gave me PTSD. Like, it's an overarching consuming feeling. And that's why it requires therapy or some type of social work to aid that individual.
Oh, wow, okay, so definitely, like, if somebody was, like, on TikTok and they were like, "Oh, can't freak with men with mullets, they give me PTSD," obviously, that's more that's more of
Yeah. And
like
I
a
mean, I wouldn't like necessarily attack someone for even using the word. Like it's definitely become a more form of like a casual word that people use. And like I definitely understand where people come from when they're using it. But
Mhm.
PTSD comes in very different traumatic forms and it can be very scary sometimes.
Wow, okay, and so in, being able to do things like research papers and, I'm sure you've done many of labs, have you interacted with individuals who are diagnosed by the what's it, the DS ugh, the the book, like the
Right. Yeah.
textbook diagnosed? Have you met individuals with PTSD?
So I haven't personally, but that's kind of what my approach in grad school is going to be is hands-on experience with individuals who have suffered from different mental health disorders and just helping them work through that.
So, like, in your undergraduate years, it's not really as much as one-on-one interacting as grad school
No,
would
it's
be?
not. It's very
Ah.
textbook and very we've observed people, but like I've watched, documentaries about war veterans who've suffered PTSD and kind of
Mm.
like that type of situation.
So, if you personally could meet somebody who's struggling with PTSD, like, would you rather it be like an older veteran or perhaps like a younger child who, kind of just recently went through it?
Think I have a preference. I think older war veteran definitely
Hmm.
would be very hard for me. Like I think it would be just a very emotional experience because knowing kind of where that came from or what they've gone through, like I can't even imagine.
Oh, most definitely. And in, that being a rough topic for you, do they kind of train you or teach you that, like, hey, you gonna have to shut your feelings off when dealing with other individuals who went through rough things, or do they kind of, promote emphasizing?
No, totally. I don't think
Okay.
it's about shutting your feelings off because, like, a therapist never wants to invalidate their own feelings either. And I'm not a therapist yet, but I can only imagine that it's more of just a separation between, okay, this is how I'm feeling in the moment. I'm going to put that aside for just a second while I can work with someone else and then tend to my own feelings as well.
Okay. And would you say, like, that's something you learn throughout schooling and even getting the textbook, schooling, that you still are able to pick up, like, oh, well, hey, you know, I got to be there for them just as much as I'm there for me? Or is it kind of like you really have to go through the experience to learn that?
I'm gonna be honest, I think I've learned a lot of this through hands-on experience, going to
Mhm.
therapy myself and kind of diving into the psychology world. I've learned by getting more hands-on experience in any way that I can and like looking through the lens of myself and other people. And I think as much as the textbook is really important, being a therapist is always going to be a hands-on experience and a job. And so I think it's really important to consider how am I applying what I'm learning into the real world and making sure that I'm not holding a double standard in that sense.
Oh, oh, that makes sense. Definitely would not want a double standard in any way. Now, I've got to know, are you still with your older therapist from a couple years ago?
I am, yeah.
And how's that? I mean, do you guys usually have conversations and being like, "You've had me for a couple years now. I'm different," and working
Yeah,
through that?
we do actually all the time. And I think finding the right therapist for you is probably like one of the most important things that I would recommend to anyone who feels like they need to navigate, their own mental health journey. But I tell her all the time, and she tells me, she's like, "You're so different, but you're always so open to change." And I think that that's what's important. You're always so open to working on what you feel like you're struggling with at that moment. And I think as much as she's an amazing therapist, I'm also a client who's willing to put in the work and put in what needs like what needs to be worked through, and that's not always easy, but I would consider that as a form of putting myself first at the end of the day.
Yes, I do remember hearing you say that, therapy takes two. You got to be willing
Yeah.
to put that work in, or else, I mean, you're kind of just wasting somebody else's time and then wasting your own money.
No, 100%.
So I want to ask what your thoughts are in the power of controlling your thoughts. Earlier, you had mentioned, that thought redirecting. Do you think that that's possible without therapy?
100%. Neuroplasticity can be as small as changing your coffee order. Every time you do
Hmm.
something new, your brain is going to respond and understand that that's going to be a repeated mental activity. So, learning to redirect your own thoughts can rewire your emotional responses over time and in turn make you a much happier person.
Wow. And so it sounds as simple as that, right?
Right.
So with that, what do you think as an overarching, like I feel like on TikTok now there's a lot more like glamorizing this healing era, right? Like entering my soft girl
Totally.
era,
Yeah.
entering my detachment era, like
Totally.
everybody's like, "Oh wow, let's glamorize this. Let's find a way to, convince people to buy a whole new workout set to
Oh,
embody
yeah,
it."
totally.
So
Yeah.
do you think that these are still definitely ways of practicing that neuroplasticity and that change embodying it even if it's a whole new wardrobe, or is it kind of like, nah, y'all can do as simple as a coffee order?
I was gonna say it's not a materialistic thing. And I always tell people, like, what is right in front of you, like, you are just missing 100%. It's not about this short-term gratification because that's just gonna be a dopamine hit, and then you're gonna feel everything that you felt
Mm.
before you bought a whole new wardrobe. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
focusing on those smaller changes every day and just if there's something that you're focusing on, like, let's say you do want a new wardrobe, go through all of the clothes that have been sitting in your closet for however many years, right? And I bet you 100% you're going to find something that you used to wear all the time that you didn't remember, but it was right there the whole time. And I think that's a perfect analogy for how we feel too. Just because you're not feeling positive in the moment doesn't mean that you aren't able to extract positive emotions from a current situation.
Wow. And so being able to, and this, right, this is something you learn hands-on, but the actual practices of every day, right, that okay, I'm having a rough day today, but I'm gonna go turn it around and try to do a little something for it
Right.
to be new. Is that definitely something that anybody could do, or is it kind of like those who are diagnosed with anxiety and depression have it harder than like the average person would?
I think mental health is definitely something that needs to be taken seriously. And I think the first thing that anyone can do in a situation like that if they are having a hard day is just validate their own emotions, and kind of reflect and be like, well, look how far I've come and look how much further I'm willing to go. I think just that open acknowledgement within itself is already going to be such a healthy turn. But I will say I think it's harder for anyone who does suffer from anxiety or depression. Those thoughts are very real and they are very overbearing, and that's why I always say it's okay to ask for help. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay not to be okay. And but if you're having a bad day in general and you feel like you've been pretty in tune with your thoughts, I would just recommend, doing whatever is good for your nervous system. So getting outside, getting some sun, going on a walk. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's advice that is always given, and again, it sounds something so simple, but yet, those who do struggle, it's definitely a harder challenge than, somebody who just, is like, "Okay, I can get back on my feet tomorrow," right?
Right.
And so I wanted
Yeah.
to ask if you had to give a tip or even a pretty simple standard definition of the word focusing, right? When you said
Mm.
earlier, focus on the things in front of you, what would that look like? What would that mean? What would that feel like?
You know what? I would equate that to the word presence. I would just
Hmm.
say be where your feet are and absorb every day as best you can without letting the time fly by. I think a lot of us kind of get ahead of ourselves and we're looking forward to the next week, we're looking forward to the next month. And those days will still be there when you are excited to have them. But
Mhm.
taking every day for what it is and maximizing that time efficiently is really going to get you into the next phase of your life and where you want to be.
And for you personally, did you always have this mindset and these practices, or again, is it something you've kind of came to know with experience?
Yeah, no, I never had this growing up. I was a severely depressed child, anxiety, depression, OCD, and I had gone through a couple different therapists. And when I found this one, she was the first one that kind of wasn't shoving medication in my face. She was like, "Let's really talk through these issues and work
Mm.
through them." And through that, it takes good things take time. And through all of that positive
Mm.
reinforcement and being able to dissect everything that I really needed to talk through, it's going to shift you over time, and choosing to be positive every single day is something that's really transformed my life.
Wow. And that's just really moving to hear. Sometimes, a little personal input. I think everybody does have a good roundabout of their own rough days, but being able to know that, genuinely small positivity can go, it pays off. Because, you think of money, you think, okay, investing a penny a day, right, over 100 days, you'll have $1. But, comparing that to more of your emotions, okay, being not even gaslighting, but just like, oh wow, I did get that promotion, or oh wow, AP scores came out. I got a score that's defined as passing. Like those little boosts of reinforcement is enough to rebuild your brain over time, correct?
Right. Well, I would also argue that it's kind of that idea of the more that you focus on something, like the more you're going to focus on it, essentially. So if it's like, if you're extracting positive outcomes from a negative situation, your brain is going to be positively reinforced in that moment. And it's going to continue to want to be positive because you're going to feel so much lighter. You're just going to be happier.
Wow. So with that being said, we're kind of going back to TikTok, how TikTok likes to give their ways of advice, correct? Like post
Hmm.
breakup, you like one sad TikTok, and all of a sudden your whole For You page is sad, correct?
Exactly.
So in, absorbing all that information, would you say that there's kind of a certain way that, somebody could really efficiently, backed up by, science and honestly the way that our brain works as a muscle, that there is kind of like a set in stone at least to try to do to get over somebody or get over grief in itself?
You know what? There are actually like designated therapists for this type of feeling, like especially grief. I think that is something that can be a job for the rest of your whole life, depending on the situation. But when navigating a breakup or when navigating um, a very extreme, like a situation that maybe feels more extreme in the moment, I would always tell people to just try avoid to touching their phone or consuming that content, because I think it's just going to bring a negative thought spiral that is going to make your life harder and not easier.
Hmm. 'Cause I mean, in reality, if you look at it, it's also a bunch of different perspectives and different separate cases, all on
Exactly.
math app, trying to, oh well, this is what worked for me, so it should work for you, type of
Exactly.
mentality. Ah, okay. That honestly, I think that's a great piece. Are you personally taking some time offline?
Wait, am I taking time offline?
Yeah, perchance. Like, are you kind of just trying your own experiment of not being online?
Um, no, I think I don't really like, I actually really love social media. I've just the last 2 weeks I've been kinda busy because I was moving home, so, um but I, like, think it really just depends, because 'cause I've definitely spent, like, a lot of years curating my own social media feeds and unfollowing people who don't, like, make me happy or kind of, like, or have the same goals as me. So, I would definitely recommend a social media cleanse to anyone who feels like it might be a little bit more negative than positive for them right now.
Oh, wow. And what does that look like?
I think unfollowing, like, influencers that really aren't providing, like, any sort of I don't know, if you're not learning anything from who you're following, I always unfollow them. Like, I'm really big into right now, Huberman Lab. He's a researcher at Stanford, and he runs a podcast as well. And like, I'm really big into those kind of PhD influencers, social work.
Mm.
I would just start, and then also, of course, like I follow people who bring me joy, like who I think are really funny. Like right now, I'm keeping up with the Love Island cast, and I definitely have some favorites on there. But like anyone that you really think you've gotten a positive experience from, because you know what, life already sucks, and curating a social media feed that makes you upset isn't going to make your life any better. So I would just say use those tools to your advantage and do the best you can do.
Now I've got to ask, since you mentioned Love Island, what
Totally.
couple were you rooting for the most last night?
Oh, you know what? It's definitely been a journey. I was pleasantly surprised with Iris and Pepe. I
Right.
actually
That
think
was a shocker, a
I
bit.
wasn't expecting, and honestly, like, we'll see what happens too, because I don't think there's that much time left. But obviously, I was like everyone else, and I was very excited for Nick and Alandria.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens though.
What do you think about Hoda? I was really waiting for that name to pop up in
Ah,
there.
funny. Yeah, so I definitely resonate with her in some ways, as someone who's kind of had their own struggles in the past. I think she is extreme with her emotions because I think in the past I can only assume that maybe those haven't been validated. And I'm not going to speak for her, but I think it seems like she's already taking accountability in the villa for previous days. So I wish her the best. I hope that she comes out and hopefully learns a couple things and and she's with Chris.
Yeah, it took me for a shock a little bit because I was actually looking at everybody's individual social medias last night, saying that she was a fitness influencer. I mean, obviously,
Mm.
body was tea. I was like, wow, this definitely is not no
Right.
plastic surgery. But it caught me for a shock that she sells a course, and I would think, I mean, obviously, fitness influencers can't be incompetent people. These are people who are very
Right.
well educated, whether that be, having an actual degree for what's called physical sciences or like the body or whatnot, or just even having a good, well, this workout worked for me and it works well enough for you to pay for my program. I think that was like, oh wow, shoot, she's actually somebody out there outside the villa.
Right. I know, and I definitely saw that too. But I think that at the end of the day, like, fitness health and mental health are two different things, although they
Oh
can
yeah.
coincide with each other. I definitely think that, there's going to be a lot of self-reflection that needs to be done after this season is over, and that's totally fine. Like, whatever happens is going to happen, and the season's almost over, so, she'll figure it out.
Almost definitely. I mean, watching all of it is definitely a journey. I think the drama is just hitting my dopamine receptors like no other thing right now
Totally.
in my life. So
Oh
it is
no,
very exciting.
me and my sister are definitely keeping up, so.
I did get into it unfortunately late, so I'm just now, like, literally I was like, it was not until last episode where I was really able to confidently, like, they would come up on the screen and I'm like, oh yeah, I can put a name to the face. I just got into it.
Oh man. Yeah, well, I wish you well. You'll
No,
figure it out.
I did want to close off with a pretty more personal question. I wanted to see what you really had in stock to say with this. Now, I did see that you started your podcast when you were 16.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Would you honestly even consider it as a passion project of yours?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that podcast, I've revamped it, I've renamed it, I've refocused it. I used to make episodes that were like about this long, 20 to 30 minutes, and I just realized that I wanted something that was quick that people could listen to and get a point across and hopefully come out feeling better on the other side.
Honestly, yes. I was about to say I completely enjoy how yours are not even 5 minutes. Most of them are right
Right.
there at the 3 minute mark. And honestly, they're amazing pickups for when I'm on my way to work. Right? I'm just like, all right, you know what? I see the title, whether it be AI or something,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
more something like, okay, I can apply this on my daily, like today after listening to it, I'm definitely gonna leave with some new learned thing. But being able to, have that quick 3 minute, like, you are straight to the point, and I really do enjoy that in listening to your podcast. And when I've even referred it to a couple friends, I mean, it's like, damn, where's the rest of Authentically Ash? Where's more content? I mean, I can listen to 5 episodes in one
Oh,
day, and it's still not be enough. But
wow.
in that, like, what tips do you have for those who are trying to start a podcast or want to fulfill spreading a message as such, short and sweet, just like Sabrina Carpenter?
100%. I would say just do it. I think a lot of people always say they're going to start tomorrow or start at some point, or it's something they've been interested in, but they never do. Like, it really took me 5 minutes to start it. And although it's been quite a journey, like, it's become something so much more than I could have ever imagined. And I'm so happy with how things worked out.
That's awesome to hear because it's really all about the passion, right? If you're really wanting to do it, you'll go after and go for it. I
Yeah.
mean, no excuses, no ands, if, buts, or whats, no pebbles in the road. You just
No, 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 no. I think also too, like, don't focus on, I mean, I've been running my personal Instagram account for 4 years. Don't focus on like followers. You know what I mean? Like the people that are keeping up with you daily, like those are going to be the people that are going to make your content better, and not necessarily the amount of followers that you have, but the quality of your content.
so quality over quantity.
100%, yes.
Oh yeah, because I recently have been wanting to get to know more smaller podcasters, and one of the main struggles I hear, and even in getting in communities such as servers or talking to other people one on one of the biggest things is like, yeah, like I want to hit consistently 100 streams, right, or hit
Right.
consistently like 10 comments per episode, whether it's hearts or awesome pod, right, but
Right.
then at the same time, we check out each other's content, and I'm seeing that they've got comments that are long. I mean, long
Right.
paragraphs on like, wow, this episode helped so much. I was going through XYZ. You helped in ABC ways. Like, can't wait for you to keep dropping. Right. And whether it be one of those or two of those and like 5 streams, you would,
Right.
it's really remembering that, these are the people that really are in tune, the people that are going to show up every episode, whether it's something different or it's something new and whatnot.
Totally. Yeah, shameless plug, Authentically Ash on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Feel free to hit that follow button and keep up with me.
Yeah, are you everywhere, like Google, YouTube, or like where are you? Are you on a specific
Um,
platform?
just Instagram and Spotify. I have a link tree
Mm.
with like all of my current projects. But yeah, it's an ever-changing thing. So that's where I'm at currently. Oh,
Well,
and TikTok, of course.
oh yes, of course, of course. You got it. You're plugging everything but the main attraction here.
Mhm.
Well, awesome. I would love to leave it on that note, and I'm really grateful for having you again on here, Miss Authentically Ash.
Of
And
course.